So if you've never heard of a whoopie pie, then girl, get with the program. Like, what are you doing? Whoopie pies are a pretty old style classic dessert. They're like a cross between a cake and a cookie sandwiched together with a filling. And typically they're chocolate with vanilla filling. But today I wanted to make an exciting little update on them with red velvet whoopie pies. And after you guys see how quickly these come together, you're gonna be like totally shook, because you're gonna think, oh my God, I have to make those right now. And odds are you might have everything you need, but even if you don't, quick trip to the store, you'll definitely find everything in a couple minutes, and they're not very expensive to make. So these are a great party dessert, a great thing to make last minute if you're just craving something sweet, and they photograph really nicely. If you're trying to get on that photography flex, then these are a great thing to practice with. It's a very straightforward batter, actually. It just needs flour with some baking soda and salt, a little bit of cocoa powder. Now, I feel like a pretty common question that a lot of people ask is red velvet like vanilla or chocolate that's simply dyed red? And the answer is, it's kind of both. So if you look at like a traditional chocolate cake batter, it has like a whole cup of cocoa, whereas if you look at red velvet, it only has a few tablespoons. So red velvet is cocoa flavored, but not intensely chocolate. So the answer to your question is, it's kind of both. It's cocoa flavored. But to my dry ingredients, I'm adding my sugar. I like a mix between brown sugar and granulated sugar. So we're just gonna mix together our dry ingredients really quickly. Always doing this separately to make sure everything is really nicely dispersed. Then just setting that aside, and we're gonna get our wet ingredients together really quickly. So here I have some vegetable oil that I added some vanilla extract to, and I'm adding some buttermilk to this. Buttermilk has a great acidity that makes these really tender and rich. But if you don't have buttermilk or can't find it, you can use the same measurement of regular milk and add a tablespoon of lemon juice to it. And it might curdle a little bit, but that's pretty much homemade buttermilk. So to this, I'm adding just 1 egg. I use large eggs. And then since these are red velvet, we're adding some red food coloring, about a tablespoon. Just gonna borrow my whisk from my dry ingredients here and whisk this together, and look at that red color, honey. If you have something against using coloring, which trust me, it's totally understandable, there are a lot of all-natural food colorings that exist now. You may just have to order them in advance and kind of plan for that. So this is beautiful. All we're simply gonna do is add this wet mixture into the dry. And I wasn't kidding when I said this comes together really quickly. So the consistency of this batter is on the thicker side, but still is the slightest bit runny. But considering we're gonna be scooping these out and putting them on cookie sheets, you don't want it to be really runny, otherwise they're gonna flatten out. So just switching to our spatula here, gently folding, being sure not to overmix that flour. And you'll see this is a really nice consistency. It's thick, runs the slightest bit, but doesn't completely flatten out, which is exactly what you want for whoopie pies. All right, so this looks absolutely wonderful. First off, I have a cookie sheet with some parchment paper on it, and what I like to do to make sure these all come out the same is I get a cookie scoop. This one's about 2 inches, which I found makes the perfect size whoopie pies. So all I do is simply get a leveled scoop of the batter, put it on the tray, and then rinse and repeat. I mean, very simple. I'm probably giving a little more space than totally necessary. I'm just so paranoid of them running into each other. So I think I'll take a little risk here. Just gonna get out any excess air bubbles and move on to my other sheet. If you don't have a cookie scoop, it is totally fine. You can use spoons. And that way, if you wanna make some whoopie pies bigger than the others, you can absolutely do that. Just keep in mind your baking time will vary if they're not the same size. So these are just gonna go on my preheated oven, 375 Fahrenheit, for about 8 to 10 minutes. They don't take very long. I have my racks in the oven set to the lower and upper thirds. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put them in for about 5 minutes, flip the pans, so the one that was on the upper, switch it to the lower, vice versa, and cook for another 3 to 5 minutes until they spring back when lightly touched. So while those are baking, we're actually gonna get our filling, which is gonna be a classic cream cheese frosting that we're gonna put in the middle of the 2 cookies for that amazing red velvet cream cheese whoopie pie. It'll be absolutely wonderful. So you don't wanna move these right away once they come out of the oven. You wanna let them finish setting up and cool for about 5 to 10 minutes on the pans before you transfer them to a rack to cool completely. And actually, you don't even really have to put these on a rack to cool completely. You can let them cool on the pan completely and they will finish setting up and be perfect. I'm gonna do this with my hand mixer. You can use a stand mixer for this if you want to make it even easier, but my stand mixer is quite large, so don't really need to break that out for this. So this cream cheese filling comes together really quickly. I just use half a block of softened cream cheese, so about 4 ounces, and then a stick of softened unsalted butter. You do want it softened because we're gonna be blending this and making kind of a frosting out of it, so cold butter will not do the trick here. And I prefer to use unsalted just so I can control the sodium levels in whatever I'm making and add salt as I need it, because with salted butter you can't always guarantee how much salt is in there. And the first thing I'm gonna do here is get this butter and cream cheese mixed up together. You don't need to do it on a super high speed, I'd say a medium speed, just to kind of whip it up a little bit. Just gonna make sure I scrape this bowl down before we add anything else so that everything stays mixed together and there's no residual butter cream cheese that's not getting mixed in. So the next thing I'm gonna add is my salt. I did say I was using unsalted butter, so I'm just adding a very small pinch, like probably not even a measurement's worth of salt, a pinch. Just because we're also adding some vanilla extract. This is my homemade vanilla. I actually have the recipe for it in my cookbook, so go check that out. But I'm adding a couple teaspoons of this actually because I love the intense vanilla flavor. We're just gonna mix this one more time. Now I'm gonna start adding my confectioner's sugar. So I like to add it about a half a cup at a time and mix in each half cup, taste along the way, and stop adding it once it's as sweet as you like it. A lot of the times you see a frosting or a filling recipe with a certain measurement of sugar, you put all the sugar in it, you taste it, and you think it's too sweet. And you're like, well, crap, what am I supposed to do? Remake the whole thing? So in all my recipes for frosting, I actually say to add your confectioner's sugar a little bit at a time. And once you've added enough for your preferences, stop adding it, you're good to go. So I'm gonna go in with my first half cup of sugar, beat it in. So if I had to guess, I'm probably only gonna need a cup to a cup and a half of sugar in this one. And our last half cup, I'm guessing at least. I have done this a few times, so this is normally however much I like. But like I said, if you want it a little sweeter, feel free to add more. And keep in mind, we are gonna be piping this on the whoopie pies, so we don't need tons of frosting. This, I find, makes roughly 9 to 10 whoopie pies, because however many of those individual discs we're making, 2 of them makes 1 whoopie pie. So you're gonna have about 18 to 20 discs here with the full recipe of batter, which is perfect for a small group of people, because I'm guessing people are not gonna just want 1. I never do. Just gonna give this a quick fold down, make sure that whole bowl is scraped, so that everything is evenly mixed in. And if you wanna make this in advance and have it ready for whenever you make the whoopie pies, just cover it with plastic and put it in the fridge. Because if you leave it out at room temperature, it will thin out a little bit because cream cheese, obviously. And actually what I do when I'm putting these on the cooling rack is I like to kind of pair them together, because since some of them are a little various in size and shape, I'm gonna make sure they all match, so that when we sandwich them together, they're gonna look really nice. And then these are my 2 kind of odd guys out, so they're gonna get partnered together. They got picked last. Oh well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip half of them over, and the inverted ones are the ones we're gonna pipe the cream cheese frosting on. But we're gonna do something really exciting with these. Are you ready? So first, I have my cream cheese frosting in a piping bag. Now, you can find disposable piping bags for cheap online and even at grocery stores now. But if you don't want to pipe, you can just use a knife and spread these and go totally home style, and I'm sure nobody's gonna complain. Nice rings of my beautiful cream cheese frosting on here. But what I'm doing is I'm leaving a small ring in the center, unpiped, because we're gonna be doing something really exciting with these. I love to put something in the middle of them, so when you bite into them, there's like a surprise in the center. So, done with that, I'm gonna put raspberry preserves in here. You can do anything you want. You can throw some chocolate chips in there, you can melt some chocolate, put that in there. Any type of fruit preserves that you think would pair well with these, the sky's the limit. You can do anything you want. I'm gonna take a small spoon and drop just a little bit of raspberry preserves into the center of each one. And that way, if you cut them in half, like for pictures and stuff, you have a really pretty cross section to look at. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay. And then all that's left to do is put the tops on here, make the famous little whoopie pie sandwich, and then I have a nice little platter I'm gonna set these up on because I'm all about making stuff look pretty. They smell amazing, they look amazing, you can tell they're red velvet. Ugh, I cannot wait. Don't forget to check out the links in the description so you can find links to my cookbook, my social media, and the full written recipe with metrics included on my website. This is literally everything I want. Woo, child! I'm telling you, once you hit the raspberry preserves, it's just like, how do I even feel about this? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Leave me some comments and hit that thumbs up button. Till next time, this is Bake It with AJ. I literally cannot believe I've never made these before. Like, what have I been doing with my life until this point?